Hey, good morning, guys. It's March 11th. It is um, a special day for me and Brandy. This is our 25th wedding anniversary. 25 years ago, we were married. So happy anniversary to my wife. Um, Chambers is talking about vision, and he references Acts 26. Paul is standing before. If you know anything about the book of Acts, Paul is causing trouble wherever he goes, especially with the Jewish synagogues and leaders, and especially because he's preaching to the Gentiles, and he's obviously pointing back to the crucifixion of Jesus and saying that he was crucified by the Jews, and so he gets into all kinds of trouble as a result, and he appeals in one case as he's brought before Jewish leaders, before the Sanhedrin and kind of a Jewish tribunal. He appeals to be brought before Caesar, which is his right as a Roman citizen. So the rest of Romans, or Acts, sorry, and then into the Romans, the book of Romans, actually, a lot of it's, I think most of it, or all of it, is when he is imprisoned. So he spends, I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the instance in which he spends the rest of his life kind of in prison and going before these leaders. He's standing before Agrippa. He gives his testimony of um, God appearing to him in the wilderness, or not in the wilderness, sorry, the road to Damascus. And as he says this, he talks about the vision. Okay, sorry. All that to say, that's where Chambers is taken over. The vision that God gave Paul. And Paul says to Agrippa, I was not disobedient unto the heavenly vision. When he got a vision, when Jesus appeared to him, when Jesus gave him instructions, told him who he was, Jesus, and what Paul was supposed to do, Paul says, I was not disobedient to that. I've been obedient to that, and that's why I'm here in front of you. And then Chambers challenges us that if we do not run our belief about God into practical issues, take the vision God gave us, and that's another thing. If God's given us no vision, then maybe that's something that we need to. Chambers is kind of emphasizing here. That's something that we need to make sure that we are reaching out to grab hold of, some vision that Jesus has given us of a way to spend our life. And so he's saying if we don't run our belief about God into practical issues, it is all up with the vision God has given. The vision will die, is basically what he's saying. The vision should instruct our day to day. And he says down the second paragraph, we get so practical that we forget the vision. We get so wrapped up, and this is one thing that we talked about in Bible study this past week, is that even in sharing Christ with people, evangelizing, we talked about evangelizing. We do it in a practical way sometimes, some way that's sometimes it's too practical to be relational. It's, oh, do you have a church? You want to go to church with me? We talked about that, and it's really, it's interesting. That's just a kind of one of these practical things. That's like saying, well, I don't want to give an analogy, but I don't know. It doesn't it doesn't it doesn't bring to light the relationship that that Christianity is to the person who's seeking. They may not even know what they're looking for, and you're giving them an answer that's the simple one, maybe, and it's not. It's maybe it seems practical, but it doesn't make a whole lot of good sense. We need to introduce people to Jesus, and instead, sometimes we introduce them to a church. And churches are flawed. Jesus is not. People are discouraged by churches a lot of times um, because it's full of people, and sometimes those people are still being refined by the gospel. So anyway, we get so practical that we forget the vision. Chambers says, and later down in that paragraph, it is at the peril of our soul's welfare that we get caught up in practical work and miss the fulfillment of the vision. And so Paul is basically saying, hey, I've everything I've done, every step I've taken, every place I've visited, every people that I've poured into, um, every church I've planted has all been obedient to the vision that God gave me. And I wonder, and I think, okay, is that what we're doing? Am I being obedient to the vision? One of the things that I'm really aware of is how much we share. that's something that I think we tend to do poorly sometimes. And I don't know if I've quoted this before to you guys. I think I have, but I wrote down a long time ago, and I think I read it somewhere. A life well lived is one that makes no sense unless the gospel is true. So unless we're living out the vision God gave us, some of the practical stuff, we only do practical stuff, and that's not guided by or instructed by the vision God gave us, then that looks like it makes sense to the world. A life kind of guided by vision, when the world looks at it, says that doesn't make any sense. Why he's spending so much time and effort and energy and resources in that arena. And the last thing Chambers says here in the next to last chapter: if God sows you, you will bring forth fruit. And so obviously the inverse of that is if you're not bearing fruit, maybe you're not residing in the place that God has sown you. So, or has tried to sow you, and you just are being stubborn and not allowing God to sow you in good soil. So anyway, I think I was a little heavy today. Sorry about that. Don't mean to discourage you. I'll talk to you guys later.